Almost at 100,000 subscribers. Yes, that is it. That is what's going on. I checked today, we're at 99,000. YouTubers like, no, what is happening? It's been 10 years, he hasn't given up yet. Actually, quite the contrary. You know how they say when the cat's away, the mice will play. There's been a lot of playing going on, lots of confusion happening, lots of things that I see and feel intuitively, and you know, it's great to be working on solutions. You know, conversation is only one part of this. You know, a bunch of talk without application is not wisdom. So it's very important that we have solutions for all of what we're bringing for ourselves. Because if anyone chooses to bring a powerful message, it only gets more powerful when they're applying it to themselves. And so that's how we continuously increase, and that's how we get better. And in that sense, you know, it's important to realize exactly where we are. You know, why are we even in the stage of getting better? It's because there has been some disruption. You can see it in the planet. We don't have to go into the future or go into the past. You can look within and you can see lots of confusion. You know, when you don't know the answer to certain things, you don't feel confident. You know, when you don't feel connected, you know, all of those things just start really saying ultimately one thing. You could be without a foundation and without a connection. And so what we design with good old-fashioned love, with organic parts, which are us, is a place where you can get all of that fulfilled. And we are coming in mass. We're trying to get as many people to wake up to not only this awareness, but waking up to what they did in all of this. Like, what is your role in the massive awakening? Because it is going to happen. So, you know, some people are like, well, we're wondering if the massive awakening is going to happen. Well, it doesn't matter. If you spent 5 billion years in non-awakening, at one point the awakening is actually going to happen. It's something that's guaranteed. It's another aspect and part of ourselves that we need to experience. And now we're going into that phase, and the world is going into that phase. So a part of this state of the human address is not only getting your questions answered, which we have the moderators on deck, sending wholeness to the moderators. Thank you for holding the space. Got the grid builders on deck, wholeness to my brother Sven for holding the space. And the meditators on deck in the background meditating, wholeness to my brother Mark Roman, you know, continuously bringing up those positive vibes. And all of those in the spectrum. Eddie, would you be, do I need to go into this? Monica, Timothy, my brother is about to touch ground tomorrow. Ryan, and to Wakayo, Chris, you know, there's a lot of us. You know, I could actually spend about 2 or 3 hours just going through the names. And we're also getting together here in Envision towards the, I guess it's the end of this month because we're in February now. So that's going to be crunk. No tentative plans yet officially, like what is the big thing, but definitely look forward to seeing more of that. There's going to be some links dropped also in the chat, you know, just to center things into solutions. We got a big solution coming. This year is it for us. We've given ourselves the 2019 by December deadline just so that we can be more active in doing what we do. Not that we feel that it's going to be the end of everything, which is there's no such thing, but it is going to be a big change, and we're going to bring that change. And a big part of that involves every single person. So we're going to share some links about just being informed about this massive mindful funding we're going to be bringing up. This is just bringing the fun back into all of this. Many of us do things very well. And we have fun when we're doing it, but when we're doing stuff that we don't like doing, it's not so fun. And that generally is our job for whatever reason. So we want to create an ecosystem where everybody is funning and doing stuff that they love, and then we're seeing that in the expression of what they're doing. And we already have really good examples of that right now. You know, maximum wholeness to my brother Halo, who's actually here in the studio with me and who's been so instrumental at being the lens of the eyeball for you. And bringing not only what he's experienced, but also what he is seeing is on the reels, you know, into his form of creativity, and then bringing you these insights. Like, this is real stuff. This is really what's happening. It's not a Google commercial. It's not a Apple commercial. It's the real thing. So with that being said, you know, since the real is always on deck, it's always important to bring that realness. So if you do have questions today, because I thought of doing this a bit differently today, instead of going into everything that I have prepared, I thought of, why don't we just let questions begin to provoke what is here in the notes already. So we'll do it forwards because that would be considered as backwards to how most people do things. And let, really the cosmos, the ancient mothers, the ancient fathers, balanced and unbalanced alike, really come out and say what they need to say because, I'm always a great conduit for that, just bringing in that expression and form because the true me is everything, AKA clear-faced. The more that I can continuously accept and not push myself into some kind of judgments or boxes or prisms or anything that causes judgment, which is division, then the more that I can get out of this world and into the other space, into the extraordinary, as it would be said. So it's important for us to remember that this tearing that we're experiencing on Terra, like this word tear, like tire, is all about the divisions of the water, because that's what land masses really are, is they themselves are large craft buckling up against each other because they're shipwrecked, and then they build the mountain and the home for many other beings. But in that, there is a lot of chaos and crumbling and fire and fusion and all those different forces that we love to talk about, but we don't like to always be in the goo when it's time for them to be prepared. Like all those plasma forces, when we think of the heat and the intensity of lasers and all that, maybe sometimes we get caught up in debating stupid stuff that we can't even try out in the laboratory ourselves, but then miss that the power is right here and it's inside of us. And the most important thing is to not only activate it, but sustain it. There is something to all of this, and you're sitting in it. You're inside of your own boat, all right? So whether you're shipwrecked or not, like you got to think about it. Your boat is your house, just like a shell of a fly around a snail, right? Like that is his house. Look at the diagrams or the symbol of a house, and generally you will find a design of a boat when it's turned upside down. It's almost as if you could take the boat of your house and turn it upside down and make it the roof, or excuse me, you could take the boat that you sail on the sea in, put it on land, turn it around and make it the roof of your house, and then build around it, and now you got a boat house. All right, that's what the ancients were actually doing and what they were up to, because it was completely efficient time, no time to waste it because there was none. And this is what we're going to be getting into today. So again, so so what the moderators are doing is the moderators are actually recording questions inside the chat that seem relevant enough to bring across the forum. And then when I get into rapid fire, if I ever make it to that point today, then I will not only be drilling through those questions and bringing forth the message, but I'll also be getting your questions answered, which I feel like is really important at this point. So if you had someone that you could ask that you do trust, because there's kind of like two issues that you deal with gathering knowledge from external sources. One, you kind of have to trust them, but if you don't, then you may take that knowledge, but it may become a dogma to you because it never will be put to use. You may keep it on the outside of you and probe it a little bit, but you'll never put it inside. And so what this is all about is that's what we mean by understand, meaning you have to go on the journey also. You can't just sit in the studio or sit in your house or sit at the job all day and just either talk about it to people or keep servicing the system and not actually go on the journeys, not actually plant trees, not actually really go downtown and help some younger inner city youth do some things, not really carry the load. And so really what we're about and what we've always been about is bringing that into the space where we get out of the brain gym, because it could get to be a bit much. And at the end of the day, what's really demanded from us, especially from our ancestral genealogies, is to actually get in action, to produce something, to create something. And even more is they want you to divine a new path. They don't want you to necessarily go into the ritual all the time. The ritual is instruction. It does let you get an idea of what was going on, but every ring is looking to break its bond so that it can fly free. Like things don't like to stay in these cycles all the time, going nuts, being around the same things in the same vibration, grinding down, getting upset and, spiraling down, losing the light, losing intelligence, getting to a point where other beings are even stepping on you, being the last one conquered. Did you know the last ones conquered are always on the bottom of the list? What am I talking about? Like when your shit just got tore up, you're going to be the one that's on the bottom. Let me show you an example of that, how that looks and how that's applying in our world today, because, it's important to bring facts in, as they say, facts, so let's dive into some facts, right? I pulled this from a chart of one of our brothers today. We're going to be sourcing a lot of knowledge. That's what we've always been capable of doing, is not only sorting this knowledge because it's a bit much, and some people are bringing things and they're in their Gnosticism, which is great. Let them flow. It doesn't mean they have to be right about everything. Just keep them in the Gnostic stage. And then because that's more of the magnetic feminine aspects, right? So while they're in the Gnostic phase, you need a scribe there, because that is more of the masculine effects. And the scribe is kind of taking count of anything that he can think is legible about what is going on. It is his duty to translate that from what is going on in the experience through the pen onto the paper. So generally the scribe, again, was a powerful person all within themselves, because they had to know the arts of discernment and the ancient languages, right? So here's just a brief chart of what exactly I'm talking about in relation to when you just got conquered. And I won't go into all of these, because you obviously are very familiar with them, and you may be under one of these titles when they want to play this name game, which is all a part of the pyramid scheme, because if it can't be named, then it can't be controlled. So it's important to actually name something, right? So let me just make sure I got my system working right here. So if you didn't notice, you can see the Indians, which is the Mexicans, the ones that had held up what was now known as Native, or what's now known as Native America, holding things up over there, and obviously facing that destruction of the impending, not only geological situation, definitely mud flood situations happening, but also the predator situation with those who follow up after the mud floods. The junkers, right? Like on Mad Max, those who take advantage of the situation, just having their areas totally pillaged and basically falling out, and then them becoming really, if you didn't notice in the world today, this powerful tribe, which was like one of the most recent powerful tribes, is now looked at in a way that is like lower or less than everything else going on in society. And then it keeps tearing itself from there, because remember, it happened to the Chinese, it happened to the Indians, and then each of them now in society are just now coming up and pushing through. Obviously the Africans as far as slaves, or the Judeans as far as slaves are concerned, being brought to the US, them being a bit more higher than still. So you see this system? Like the reality is somebody got to sit up and talk about it and say something about it, and then they got you in society feeling guilty about talking about it, even though they play it on you every single day. What is it? The pyramid scheme. The pyramid scheme of power, where when somebody else gets the foot off of their neck, then they choose to put the foot onto somebody else's neck. Like, okay, I'm glad I'm higher than you now. And the interesting thing is that that's exactly what perpetuates this madness, but it's built into many humans, and you see it in there. It's something you got to wean out. Some people call it haters. It's basically, just that idea that if somehow you get up there, that you have to preserve that space. The truth is, you want to create as much as you can beneath you. You want to lift up as much as you can beneath you, because that will push you higher. And that's just basics of what you see in the laboratory, which is where we spend a lot of time. So instead of, again, getting deep into the message, I'm going to let the message get deep into us, and go ahead and start looking into my questions right now. So just give me a quick second. I'm going to be pulling up where I'm getting those questions from. And there is nothing in there, so I'm going to go ahead and keep going. And so let's see. I guess my moderators are gathering questions and then going to feed them to me in Discord. And I'll keep going with it. So let me just go with what I have also in today. And okay, let me talk to you about something. Let me get some things very clear to you about this ocean, because I kept saying over and over and over again, I've been saying it for years, that not only does everything come from the ocean, even our hearts, the spleen, all those pieces are like conchs, right? And then you got master real architects that know how to put biological organisms together, and like more than Frankenstein ever could. Right? So put something really together that's perfect phi. Now, it's not hard, because everything in the ocean is phi, damn it. So if you're just going to put all the pieces together, you're still going to come with phi, but there is an order in the operation. And there are pieces that actually do certain things, like there's generators, like our heart. Like our heart will fit perfect in a shell, if you think about it. Like when you go to the ocean and you see those big conch shells, or those big, all the seashells, and you see those mollusks, you can easily see a heart in there and be like, yo, that's a heart, but it looks a little bit more cleaner. Because obviously what the ocean used to be, and this is facts, and even Darwin was trying to bring this to you in his own weird, twisted way, that when you take all the water in the body and you start filtering it, what you get the greatest percentage of is actually the same thing that the sea animals used to swim in before certain states that made the water so salty. Now, obviously, the water is so salty because of some of the devastations of the tools that were being used in the last fallout from 400 years ago. But even before then, the water wasn't as salty. It was like a perfect amino bath for all of the entities that lived inside the ocean, vast and great. Some of them, many of them exist. But there's one creation from that form, as everything in the five base reality is a creation, infused with spirits that started walking onto the land. And the land was created by larger forms of them. So just like barnacles is what you're really seeing with the mountains. And then they try to give you the turtle motif, but this is still something much more vast. But even the barnacle of this being is bigger than mountains that you see on the planetary system. And in the movements, because of something that is so large, the movements you barely even feel because of how small you are compared to how large it actually is. And what is it? It is the ship. That we are standing on the ship. This is like if you took the Starship Enterprise and just kept building it out from IKEA. It just kept building it out. It's like, I think we should add this. And then even after it got raggedy, it started throwing itself off because, epochs come and go. Why do epochs come and go? It's because just like if you look at that system, of the yin and yang, the easiest way to express that is male and female. So there's always this struggle that goes on between these two forces because one is to be passive and the other one is to be aggressive, and that is the only way things will flow. When two are aggressive or two are passive, then nothing goes anywhere. So one must go forth and one must yield. And that's the secret to the divine marriage, right? But what you have these days is two want to go forth at the same time. Bam! Both one want to go passive at the same time. What are we doing? You see what I mean? So the energy is off. So to turn the energy on, that is to connect what would be said is the magnum opus, to connect truly where is all division. So where the division is the plane itself. It is the pantheism. It is the sun and the moon. And there are things behind that. Even what you visually see is but a limitation. There are things behind that, vast forms and vast intellects that have the abilities beyond not only what we can conceive at this point, but the reality is that means there is no ability when you can't conceive it. You get it? So meaning that we have an invitation to expand into our greatness, or we can continue to eat our own. And that's literally eating our own. Okay? Like this is where that Saturnalian symbol comes from, of eating your own kids. This is like, as you keep grinding in the reality, if you don't find a way out of this, you'll eventually turn on your own. You're doing it now. Everybody that has the DNA that we are working with is part of us, but you will argue with those people. You will fight with those people. You will destroy those people's careers. You will do all sorts of things to those people, and you will be doing it to yourself. So in those stages of madness, which anybody that's fully awake and seeing that go on, you watch what's happening on the other plane. So here goes the first secret. Well, let me see if questions still coming in yet. That way I know if I can pan to that. 1 second. Okay, great. So we have some questions coming in. So before we get to that, I'm gonna lay this out for you because, again, who knows this? Who's really studying and connecting what they're divining to what does the facts say? Find the facts. Do you have a library? Can you go and get one? Have you read the annuals? 20,000 here, 25,000 books. Spend the time. How much does that boil down to in hours? 4 months. Constant listening and reading. What will you gain? Everything. Wisdom is everything. Not knowledge. Wisdom. Right? Because see, wisdom, what it does is that you can learn all the knowledge, but the wisdom is what puts it together. It's like when you get that aha moment off the same stuff that you've been pondering for the last 10 years. There is nothing that I've seen or heard out here right now that wasn't what we were already saying and talking about in another either variation or almost spot on or even beyond. Because there's a regurgitation, because that's the DNA. Look how the DNA moves. It collects information, Stores that information, comes back and collects the more information, stores that information, regurgitates that information, actually creates something that we feel is unique because it combines two unique things and create something from that, right? So that process of assessing information will only keep us as, like in a computer system, we will only function as the memories. That's why people think they're living in an illusion, because they're living like a memory. Like they got the same name as somebody else. They got the same birthday, same ideas, same every single thing. You're just a memory, Doc. So how do you get beyond that? Well, you need to know the secrets. You got to cross over the veil. And this is what I'm saying now, because I watch and then I wait, and I'm always at work doing other things. It's not necessary for me to be in this space all the time. There are bigger things that we're going at. But here's something that I want to put in balance. And this is just about the Dame in the Woods routine. The Dame in the Woods routine. What is that? That's when basically the feminine force will hide in the forest as if it's being abused by something and it needs some hero to come and save it. When in actuality, based on the cycles and what's going on, generally on a physical plane, the feminine force is always going to rule. And what many misunderstood, because they have the drones and the clones out front, these are the Freemasons and the police basically of the dimension, they had them out front, is that in the lion tribe, which is what the symbol is that you see still to this day of what is the rulership, what is the king of the beasts. In the lion tribe, it is the female that is actually the one that is doing the hunting. And that's why when she says, I'm Isis and none have lift my veil, that means that no one had really cracked who the secret society of Isis really was, because they were all veiled, because they were all ancient old women. Okay? And now there's many of them in this. We cannot generalize like all of them were bad or all of them was good. I will hope at this point that you have more integers than bad or good to determine what the hell is going on here, because you're going to need a floating point to get you to the next stage. So here it is. I told you already. In the Keymakers, also probably in the Keymakers too, but also in the University, I talked about this work right here because it is authentic. And why so many people are running after these aliens and extraterrestrials and spacecrafts and anything they can come up with to actually get a click or a like. When you read, you know what happened with the matriarch. Okay? What happened with the matriarch? Same thing that happens in the beehive. The clones of the drones tried to raise up against the queen and got obliterated. Because in those kind of systems, if you don't accept the rule of the queen, everything dies anyway, because the queen is what's responsible for maintaining the electromagnetic frequency that's coming from the sun. So if she chooses not to do it, or she changes the frequency, it affects the menstrual cycles. It affects every single cycle of life on the planet. So there will never be any total masculine control over the planet. What you will see is men out front doing all the work, taking care of things and doing things to maintain the darkness. But behind the scenes, you will always see something that is under the veil, which was actually a little bit more intelligent than the mammal. Okay? Because we got to talk about the reptilian. Okay? Because everybody wants to exclude the reptilian out of the story, because the reptilian is a secret. It is the S in secret, right? Like the S is the symbol. It is the energy. What is the energy? It's the spirit. So now do you know why so many people don't know the identity of spirits? Oh, well, it's everything. It's all. Well, I thought that was the soul. Well, yeah, both of them. The soul, the spirit, it's everything. It's all. It's all of us connected. Okay, well, if you go back about 1,500, maybe 500, I don't know, maybe even 300 years ago, and you went to a real adept and asked him what the spirit was, he would tell you it was a sar or a serpent. That it was another form that it could elope with us, because it is on a direct parallel to us, not only genetically, not only through DNA, not only through time, not only through right now. Okay? So what we're talking about is we're talking about a genius. We're talking about spirits, and we're talking about possession. And we're talking about how people get dumb because they start getting possessed by dumb spirits. And what does that mean? That means that when you start trafficking in lower vibrations, because every exchange, let me desist here first. Every single exchange takes place on the bank, or at the bank, right? So when you go and exchange money, where does that happen? It happens at the bank, right? This comes because back in the ancient times, first of all, everybody rides boats. Okay, that's how we live in boats. We move throughout the ocean. There was no physical land masses. But once the physical land mass started, because definitely those who were on land were seen as lesser. That's why there's maritime law. Maritime law still trumps all those other laws. There's canon laws that go throughout the land, bulls and edicts and decrees that go throughout the land. So those who were on the land were always seen as lesser. Okay? And then when those who were on the seas that had the ships, and this is even in space, when they pull up to the docks, all of the people, they trying to come to the bank to get trade going on. And that's always going to be that way. So in ancient cultures, the seafaring cultures such as the Phoenicians, which is a part of lifting the veil. The Phoenicians, if you notice in history, you don't hear about any female warriors as if there are none. Right? You don't hear about like female rulers, but a couple of them. But see, you only have a very secular history of about only 400, maybe max 800 years. That's all you're working with. But you're given numbers like 60 billion to throw you off. So you don't really know what's actually happening and what's been going on. But these seafaring tribes and these female warriors like Amazon, which is your biggest store right now, do you think Amazon is really owned by Bezos? Or is it more of owned by China? The dragon, the great red dragon, right? And then the dragons are, like when you read the ancient scripture, when the dragons are fighting, they war with each other, the dragons and the 7 heads biting off other heads. What are they talking about? They're talking about that even Tiamat, which is the planet that we're standing on, is a serpent. And this serpent, when they say cursed be the serpent down to its feet, or down to the dust, they were referring to Earth, taking Earth offline, saying literally that they will break the back of this beast. And then when they broke the back of the beast known as Earth, 666, the carbon-based life form, they tore it open and allowed the food, which is the diamond, the gold, the gems, and the jewels, to become, and to allow that food to feed the new life forms that were springing forth from it, which is you, me, and all the rest of the entities that are around here, shattered and broken and have been minimized. Because, see, if you notice, some of the secrets are in things like corn. Okay, they talk about how the DNA in corn is strange because it's like humans are like corn, but we never seen corn talk, so it can't be corn. Or is it the children of the corn? What is the connection? And it's because when you do genetic experiments, you can use corn. And one of the things that was conducted that was very important for the minimizers, we'll say it in this case, to do is get humans smaller, get them weaker. Because in their strength, you get Baalbeks, you get all these huge pyramids, temples, because they right away go to building because they want to scale the stars again, right? So to minimize that, so let's minimize the situation going on down there. This is a reptilian speaking. Let's minimize that situation by minimizing this damn mammal giant Gilgamesh and inbreed him, right? Because that's what you do with corn. How did you get mini corn? You keep breeding the larger pieces of corn, believe it or not. It's crazy in genetics. And eventually when you get the larger pieces of corn and you start inbreeding them on each other, at a certain point you then inbreed them together and you get miniature corn. Sweet, tasty, all of the extra what you need. And you can even bite through the center. Okay, people need to peep out what's going on. Because there are other giants, like the giant lizards that they keep telling you are dinosaurs, right? Like they didn't have no brain, nothing going on. They eat people, they eat mammals still. You don't watch a Komodo dragon walk off with a monkey. So what I'm telling you is that in this great architectural design, this is how it's supposed to work. And what you have is you have a guide. Okay, you have a guide. That means an actual thing that rolls with you inside of your mind that tells you what you should be doing. Now, you don't want to poison your guide and convince it to start doing things that it shouldn't be doing, corrupting your angel. But you do have a guide and you have a guard. Okay, that is what they would call the demon. So if you corrupt either one of them, though, because you are God, you can get the angel or the demon of you actually into the dark side. That's why they say that there's actually always 4 to everything. There's not a good and a bad. There's good with the bad negative, and then there's good with the good negative, or good positive. Then there's the bad with the bad negative and the bad with the bad positive, because there's always a mating and a pairing in these binary systems. So let's get into the questions now, because I'm lit. All right, so thanks for organizing that for me like that. So it says, what to do if you get abducted through your solar plexus? See, I asked for these questions not to come. No, I'm joking. The solar plexus and being pulled into a vortex that feels like a roller coaster ride into another dimension. I can't stop it. Well, go with it then, damn it. Prepare for that damn thing then. If that's really happening and that's what's going on, you need more details. And I would request that you ask for more details. If you have that, okay, first of all, let's again simplify this. Anytime you're able to cause anomalies to occur, it is because you are able to somehow use a form of energy that either you learn how to cultivate and synthesize because you're in a dense plane. Okay, so in the dense plane, this is like you're not on the top of the Himalayas. So the air you're breathing here is not the same air that you're breathing there. Facts. Okay, so when you're in this dense plane, you have to actually synthesize everything about your experience. It's like what you got to do with your food and cleaning it and all that before you can even actually ingest it. So what we're saying is we're saying that a person has abilities when they raise their vibration. And if this is what you're saying is happening, this means that you're doing something that is raising your vibration. So the first thing is you probably would share that with your brothers and sisters on how you've come to such a unique ability of finding such fuels. And then from there, now you need a map. And the map is actually you. The map always points back to you. Now, it is a strange land. And it is a lot of great mysterious things, but it is you nonetheless. And so you have to go within and purify and perfect yourself. And that will give you balance there. Because when you're being pulled into something where you don't feel the floor and you're suspended, it means you have no ground. And one of my friends, Mateo, who actually ran off to be a Dogen master, even against my own advice, but hey, I only give advice. You do what you want. He said that the first things the Masters was working on for at least 3 years with him is to never take his feet off the ground, to feel his ground even on a plane, a flying plane, that he should be able to feel that he's still connected to his ground, because only then would he be ready to ascend Mount Meru. Facts. It comes right from the horse's mouth. The Dogen Masters are the ones who still carry that symbol, right? Which is the horns. They call that the horns. What it is as we talked about, the Dorje goes right here, and then the current from your own body surges into the Dorje and then comes out of the 2 fingers. And this kind of craft can actually allow you to interface with the web that is around the bodies of the human beings, what we call the aura. And then you'll see the masters, which there's some YouTube videos of, actually grab auras and pull the person like this. And you'll see the person like there's an invisible web attached to them. And this is, of course, the biggest phenomena to when you know you've started getting activated, is you start feeling this web around the nose and around here and like the sensitive area, because now you've poked out the field and the wheels are coming online and now spinning the ship around you, and that's the only way to get out. All right, so let's keep going with this. So that's what you need to do. Question is from Orion Tesla. How is the use of negative energy of Saturn being used against us in today's time with all this symbology, and how is it influencing our subconscious for an up and coming transition? Okay. How many times do we have to talk about this? How many times do we have to keep seeing it? Okay, Saturn is a seeder, okay? He is a horny father, okay? Like, he is responsible for seeding, or it, because the thing is that this is not a male. It has an interlacing triangle. It is a male-female. It is a hermaphrodite, okay? And this being story is pretty vast as far as how it's been working, but its overall thing is population, continuously creating more and more beings, continuously creating. And then what happens with that, though, is that it becomes fuel for it too. It creates and it destroys. So the same thing, it's like having purpose. It's like a mother continuously having more and more children, even though she's birthing them into a world of monsters. Think about it, like there's a lot of women still having babies right now, right? Why? Because that's the only comfort and the love that they can get. And that's what their first instinct is I need that comfort. I need that love. You got to understand what's going on. And then the baby will come into a world. This is a destructive world. This is the world that they told you in the Bible to not bring kids into. But they'll bring 5 or 6 of those kids, and those kids will become fuel for this fire. You see what I mean? And that's what the symbolism goes by. So if it catches you by the horns, then, there's a lot of raw terminology with this. Again, as we talked about, the Saturnalian symbol, Saturn's coming down the chimney. Sanchez was cracking it the other day, the shaft persona, the sleigh and the red nose on the end, the reindeer. Like, these are all furtive components that actually really suggest more of, see, here's the interesting thing. See, we have this skewed idea of what the whole fertile components even consist of anyway, because we've been romanticized, okay? Now, I'll tell you that again. We have a skewed idea of what the whole birth and the whole ingestion process and all that is really like, what that is really for, because we've been romanticized. So we only see, well, she loves me and I love her, and we're supposed to live happily ever after. But that never happens, right? And then even the oaths and bindings on the marital contract, most of that stuff never happens. Why? Because a marital contract is actually designed to mar or to hurt the relationship, because it puts in an intercessor. Who is the intercessor? The guy sitting on the podium, who's generally a priest. What is his purpose? He is functioning under the old system of the czar and becoming basically what would be the old woman, who would facilitate the relationship between this male and this female in order to begin the process of possession. So let me just explain to you very, very, very deeply but simply, okay? When I say old, ancient reptilian mothers control the society, I'm not joking with you. So when you start imagining your great-great-grandma, if she's still alive, you remember great-grandma will pinch the hell out of your ass. Like, great-grandma was kind of mean, right? So I want you to understand, again, that when you have the responsibility of taking care of an entire generation after generation after generation, it kind of becomes more like the nuns are, more so than it becomes, hey, you know how the mistress is with the kids while she's still on the cell phone looking around and trying to find some new hero. It ain't that kind of relationship. It's okay, I got stuck with these kids and this is how it's going to work. Okay, so this is how it was working. How it was working was the old ancient mothers were around. They have all the ancient rituals, and they know that not only deep in the earth, but also in what we call the aether, there are spirits roaming, some vast and great and some minuscule and petty. And the only way in which they can get into this plane is through the womb. Through the womb of woman, okay? Now, man plays this crazy role because he's like the electron gun. That's why his whole thing was really just a clone almost in the scene. They brought man from somewhere else as far as those genes and that possibility. They spliced and split that out. You see what I mean? So this electron gun only serves the purpose of opening. He creates the opening with the zap of the tip that comes from what we would say is the penis, which is like the head of the snake, or the tip of the tongue when it's that electron that happens right there is all the mothers need. The Mohammedans, the Bene Jesuits, that's all they need. And once they have that happen, they can discard the male just like a black widow will eat up the husband to feed the kid. Because what is now happening is in this point, in this ritual, and this again is here. And I know societies that are connected to this, and their asses, I'm coming. So what happens is that what was going on was they would get these females, okay, these virgins. If you want to know about the real justices, injustices, who cares? I'm telling you what is really going on. So they get this attractive, beautiful female, young, what was the one that attracted Solomon, the Shumanite woman from the Jebusite tribe? Yeah, one of them. Super soft Ethiopian queen? Yeah, one of them, right? So just a brand new one, though, that hasn't seen any kind of like real corruption, like she's been hanging out in the Jehovah's Witness all her life, right? Like one of them, okay? So then what happens here is the old reptilian queen knows that she's trying to attract a big jinn, a big genie, This is why it's now still in the relation in Islam, because all this is still alive in there somewhat, that there's this time where the man has to actually pay for what he is to receive. But this is weird because the man is actually paying to get basically moved out of the way by the genie. It's a real trick on him. But see, the attraction first from the sheikh, like if you got baller status on the realm and the dimension, you now must pay for this genie and this possession to happen. And this is how things flip. Because originally the women were in charge of doing that, and the old priestesses had the whole thing under control with chicks that would swoon you with a look. Even today, if a female be like, hey, what's up? You be like, shit, corrupted. Ah! So imagine when they know what they're doing, right? So at the end of the day, that system was under control by a specific force, and now that system is in control mostly by another way of conducting that same force. So let's keep going here. Whew, obviously, there's a lot in this. So I'm just, I'm working to grapple it because there's still some more there. But let me keep going into this conversation here. So again, this is Saturn, is what I'm telling you. That it's Mrs. Doubtfire. Okay, every single part of this symbolism is all coming from the same thing. You know that from math, which is Ma'at. Okay, and then people, they want to play with it. They want to play with the lower world stuff. They want to play with all the division down there and try to make pieces out of rubble. They want to probably put shit back together on rubble. Man, go to the top. Lift the veil. What is underneath the veil? Reptilian queen. Same thing you saw in Eddie Murphy's, what was that? The Golden Child, right? When he went to talk to the lady. That was Serket, the goddess with the scorpion tail, because that is the power of the circuit of the energy. That is the flow. Right? These are the flows of the goddess. And again, the goddess is not gone. You could not remove the goddess anyway. The goddess is like the great serpent. If you even thought you were going to go and destroy this being, it was a thought it was putting in your mind. And then multiple levels of dreams, because it's a rainbow serpent, so it can throw entire fields around you, have you thinking you're winning, thinking you're losing, all of that kind of stuff. This is what we're talking about. That's why it's so mystical. Serpent, which is the pentagram, right, is the key to all mysteries and magic. It is the symbol of man because it is a symbol of flesh. So let us go further. Let us go further. The question is, from Mr. Roar Fuller, I noticed the post on monatomic gold. Can you break down the spiritual ties between monatomic gold and consciousness? Absolutely. As you know, the super deformed nuclear hybrids are on deck. After 2 years, I could have bought it 2 years ago, but we need to make sure that we're doing every single thing the way that it's supposed to be done. And this is just the awareness of the elements, just to make it very simple. You have inside of you a periodic table, but some of those shelves are empty. There are many elements like mufkuts, which is basically gold taken into the fifth stage of matter, that can fill all of those shells rather than, okay, let me find the cadmium, let me find the beryllium, and then let me also find it in a grade in which I can take. Because a lot of these cats run around with low grade fuel trying to fuel their ship on chicken grease. Like, it's facts. Like, most people need to realize the fuel that we're putting in our body is controlling how well this ship is moving. And if you cannot move your ship, you get caught up in a big current. Big current come through, you don't got no motors, your cells are ripped, and then you go right through the cycle that they have coming because you don't have your own momentum and your own motivation. That's why we're restoring the momentum and the motivation of the human race and still pointing people back to themselves. Forget about they. I can give you names, okay? Real names, real stories, real facts. Okay, so, we're gonna come forward to this because this is an ancient secret. This will probably be revealed a million times after I reveal it here today, but here it is. So there's more to this. So what happens is, Big Sheikh comes through, right? The young damsel, she's attracted. She thinks she's getting ready for her whole wedding. You've been drinking honey wine. So all of her friends and, you're going to get married to the Sultan and then blah, 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 or the prince, or, Hafiz or Abdul or Muhammad or whoever the hell is going to be. But see, when the priestesses are involved, and now this is conducted in the secret societies, what they're attempting to do is, again, track the big genie. Because the genie, see, what happens is that's why the word genius is the way that it is. The genius is sometimes the way people act. Like when you do very creative things, when you actually can create eclectic things, there's some real depth to what you're doing. You can create music naturally. You can sing. That is known to be a genius. This means that the person actually has some spirits that they're in connection with, but all as one form. That's what we like to call DNA, memories, and it's producing something that is actually boosting them into the greater stages of their experience. Versus some have very bad agreements, and all of the entities that they're around actually are doing the opposite. They just need a contact in the physical world that they are going to drain. See, this is what was happening. That's what I said. Some people may say, well, I still don't see any problem with attracting the genie. And of course, the women. Well, let me tell you what would happen. Now, first of all, the man will become a host. Once he gives off that electron, how it looks in the ritual is if she starts basically in the ritual herself, because they're even watching. How crazy is this? But the parent or the old women are watching while the first sexual act takes place, because it must take place in the ritual. So this is, again, the origins of Tantra. Okay? So when they start to copulate, if everything is lined up, because they got everything lined up, the planet that they want, because it's going to be passing over the right kind of parallax, the uterus is open, everything they need to do. This is the ancient knowledge. That's why nobody ever lifted the veil, because those specific secrets, that was the ma'at. Not just the numbers and the mathematics. You're stuck with the drone clone knowledge. We're talking about what goes on in the parallel universe. Right? And so what they would do is once they got everything perfectly timed and the male went in, they would wait for a moment to see if it had happened. And I'm telling you, sisters, if it didn't happen, you wasn't it after that. You wasn't it. What would literally happen is you would immediately go into an exile. You would still be a concubine, but if a woman came after you that was able to accomplish that with that same man, that same sheikh, if she was able to accomplish that, you would become, for sure, the second wife. If not, the third wife, passed down. Oh, Habiba, come get my clothes. The same thing that you see what monkeys do about how they run their genealogy, because if you didn't have the spirit come through, so that way you can create the genius, which was the next stage, then you were already seen to not even be it. You wasn't Chris Hagerach material. So this is the behavior again. And it is important for us to always realize that, yes, absolutely, even just as what we're speaking of now is nothing but a form of the creation, you too can go into massive things, even greater than the things that I'm explaining now as far as awareness and potential and what it can do for you. So let's go in, let's keep going, and then still not be at something that hadn't been yet tried. Is what I'm getting at. Some people think this is the end all finish all to the whole damn thing, that they need to bow down now and they need to keep serving these forces and keep tapping in that. Do you know where and how we got to where we are right now? Really through one principle, sovereignty. We refuse to worship anything else, period. Meaning no more gods, period. We are beyond gods, period. That was 10 years ago. That is the highest state, because you don't get drained. How do you think I can keep doing it, keep coming? It's like, I'm not getting drained. I'm powering up. And the potential, what's happening here with some of the recent discoveries, mud flood, 400 years, bam, there it is. For sure, that answers all the questions. How the hell are you going to beat some super robust natives to their land? Cunning works a little bit, but it don't get into a noble empire where everybody is mind reading each other. Do you know that all of these systems, the pyramids and all the temples that are all set up, you're on mind reader status at that point when you're tapped into the grid. Hey, that's the all-seeing eye for real. Hello, Murugan. That is the system where anytime you're thinking contrary to what is going on, they're already trying to tighten you up with the geometry. Okay, we need to put you into the Saqqara temple real quick because your ship is offline with the projection, you see? But again, what happened? Because what happened? Same thing always happens in yin yang, yin yang, yin yang, yin yang, yin yang, yin yang. It gets full. Listen to what I'm saying. Male, female, male, female, male, female, male, female, male, female. They're coming together. They're doing that thing. And it just gets bigger and bigger and bigger and bigger and bigger and bigger energetically until, like an egg, it cracks. And when it cracks, it's a Rubik's Cube in itself, because the moment it cracks, it repositions itself already in that process, so nobody remembers anything. It totally screws up the mandala painting, which is what that end is in the whole process of the painting. To paint the four entries to the world, all the four corners, etc., the four seasons, etc. And then you're like, man, he's putting a lot of intention into it. What's going to happen? What's going to happen? And then the monk just goes, after days of all the intentions. Why? They're talking about Earth. But guess what? Yours is the next 3,100 years. Head crack for you? 3,100 years. Not this year, not next year, not the next 100 years. You have 3,100, 200 years approximately in which you will exist going through multiple rings of this. I hope you're going up, because it's going to get nasty down there. And then what's going to happen? Your children are going to try to call upon you, and because you're going to be down there, they're going to be calling upon a demon. And that's all that's happening. That's all that's happening. The more you degrade, and people say, my ancestor. Well, what was your ancestor doing? Were they banking and trading? Right? Because there's a lot of banking and trading going on in history. The Phoenicians and the canon laws and all this stuff that's coming forward wasn't anyone's original concept that didn't have some hell of a skin that showed they had been taking the intensified sun. So this means that that just as you want to be the leader, then you got to accept being the creators, and you got to accept all the responsibility that came with that, and all the downfalls. Every time we come in to make a mistake. Do you get what's going on here? This is a laboratory, if you may. This is an experiment that we're having on ourselves to see what is the potential. So let's see what the potential is. The question here says, so again, to conclude, what the monatomics do is stuff like this. It fills up the shelves. It's not something once it's assimilable. I have a post coming out already about that. Once it takes the fifth state of matter, because the body is not used to absorbing the fifth state of matter. So it will let the fifth state of matter pass through like, what's up? Until when you administer at a certain point, it'll be like, okay, he must keep administering. She must keep administering this to me because I'm supposed to do something with it, because it's clearly not just empty liquids, right? So then once it figures it out, bam, and then at that point, it can send that anywhere. It could say it's maximum conductivity, maximum communication, no lag in the throughput, maximum bandwidth, pure metamaterial power. I gave you metamaterials. The metamaterials are sitting there on the box. I know what I'm doing. It's all about, do you know what's happening here, right? Because we're here and we're guided, and we are that line of, let's say, like the boat or the roof, the simple shelter or protection. I don't want to disable you. Meaning I'm not trying to give you all these different things that leave you nothing to do. Even if I sat here and talked all day, you would have to do something when you got off the phone. Mainly eat. So understanding things like, okay, so what should I eat next? And what's happening with me will become far more vital to you at this stage than maybe something about the airBot. Right? But then there's a certain phase where this stuff is fuel to what's going on. Like for me, massive conscious knowledge and being able to accept the truth from a level of facts, not speculation and not emotions. Your emotions can be hacked. Hack your emotions. Easy. I give you a smell, a little woof. Now you're acting different. Like it says, somebody take a too many 16ths. What does that mean, man? Somebody can get an ingestion of something that's so strong, you never see them again. So there's power here, Doc, but it's all about, do you know how to weld it, or do you always collapse? Like Michael Jackson's Beat It. Are you the guy that's always spilling off? The one that doesn't know how to hold his semen? That's what that song is really about. The one who can last till the end. The one that no matter how much pleasure is happening, doesn't go into spasm. Right? Because that's the one who remains electric. He's the sheikh. He's the one he's the real Sufi. Right? He's the real Rumi. The one that actually can resist those forces but dance with them and be like, she'll be like, you coming to my room tonight? Nah, Ma, it was a good dance, but I'm good. Like, I'm really good. Let's keep it like this. and keep it going, and let's keep this cycle going. You see what I mean? So there's a big power to taking back your power. But if you're never self-sustained, if you never feel like, I'm not saying you can't connect with anyone, but when you come in and you got a slot open, it leaves an opening for an intruder. And that's what these women are trying to also teach and explain, that there is another position open in a woman, just like in a cat. A cat can have babies from multiple things at the same time. Now we're at that parthenogenesis. Now we're at that point, that Leo Fentalis. Now we understand where this is. Even a hermaphrodite, an old female lizard with a penis, is what we're talking about here. And that is in the genetic string. It is not in something that you can't go find on Wikipedia. But it gets more crazy because they can show you the pictures, but they can't show you what the eye cannot see. You see, this is how this illusion really works. Is there something that the eye really cannot see? It is slightly out of the visual spectrum of most, except for those who know how to merge the field. This is real stuff. You do this, and then you come back. It doesn't. Some people say, is it going to be the end for me then? It definitely feels like you're cracking into something where you have the potential to die and never come back, because that is the fear that is around stuff like that. But I'm telling you that for people to keep talking and keep introducing knowledge without having these faculties to be able to go and double check, what it's doing is it's keeping everything in the chaos state. So you got to understand that the real edict of order out of chaos, which is the first charge of rebuilding the temple of earth, was already taken in vain. Meaning that in Freemasonry, they already know that the world just got cataclysmed the last 400, 500 years. And they've been responsible for hiding that secret and building things as fast as possible. That's why there's only squares. Do you think that some ancient, beautiful building that clearly looks like it took people a long time to build it, even the person, even if it's just me moving stuff around with the Woz, just me tapping vibration rods and slicing shit, I'm not going to do that again. I'm going to maintain that structure. You got buildings right now that they're still maintaining that are not even half as glorious. So how do these kind of structures, which are built with real materials, not asbestos and not drywall and sheetrock, real materials, how the hell does this get broke? Something happened, and that's mud flood. So going on from mud flood, now who's responsible as everybody's still injured? You don't even let me get up, damn robber baron. And damn, my tribe is right there. You already talking about an agreement? What's up? You taking my land? This is crazy. Every single thing is out of place. That's why they say the whole world was rent asunder. Why does that happen? Arrogance. It was the last end of the 3,600 years. It was bound to happen anyway. It probably happened and will happen again, damn it. You just need to make sure that you're able to reach into your into your lineage that will be here experiencing that. You will still be here in some way, shape, or form as far as your DNA crawling around in something. You best believe it. So you need to be on that stage and be like, you are the guide now. You are the protector now. And you're the one that actually has access in and out of the dimensions now in order to take care of your own, take care of your children, and stop eating them. Meaning that stop using the DNA as the fuel. We don't need fuel. That's what you learn when you get on these substances. You go so far, you be like, man, am I breathing? Oh shit, I ain't breathing. Shit, I didn't take a breath. It was like the last time you was like, okay, I'm gonna hold my breath. That was like one of the experiences. I'm gonna hold my breath and see how long I can hold my breath. And then like 10 minutes later, you realize you were holding your breath still. You don't need breath. What you have going on is you have a complex. Okay? That's what I say, hey, look, check it out. MK Ultra, they can't expect for there not to be any blowback. That's why you know something's going to happen. And just like they organized for WikiLeaks and all this stuff to bring all the document and papers of the people of the British wealthy and how they had the banks all in Malta to later on do nothing about it. Everybody needs to get together, and that's why we're organizing things and organizing the systems that can actually do this and actually tear down that wall of MK Ultra, which is documents stacked as high as me and you, that me and you could be reading for the next 8 months if it was just us two, and still not exhaust what was going on. And I sit in 37 pages, only 37 pages, and learn almost every single thing about the Watcher and how they operate and how they have no goal. See, people think, oh, well, what is their goal? They have no goal. They're playing it as they go. From what they learn, they gather more intellect. They're studying the most intelligent beast in creation, which is the human. And now it's no more going to the medical crazy house or being a bum on the street and getting abducted from there, or signing up for a university or some kind of institution and then being completely obliterated in one of those programs. Now it's just a cell phone, Doc. Just the cell phone is enough. The heat maps, the displays, the barometric pressures, the altitudes, the frequencies, the bandwidths, the metamaterials, the key charging. It's all there for me to use it and actually take it all to the next level so we can all get to the next stage. That's what that stuff does. You always have to know the Wu way. I'll use all this power and all this energy to power me to where I need to go. That is its only real position. You see, that's how you let that force come right into like your wheelbarrow wheel and turn that wheel like, woo, and get to the next stage rather than, oh my goodness, it's all too much. You're talking about reptilians. Now my mom was a reptilian, my dad is Darth Vader. Like, how do I deal with this? Well, deal. Anybody that comes with amazing legacy like that means that you already passed back a full house. I passed back a full house, Doc. You got better cards? Well, how about I don't play? See, people don't understand. Every time you get offered something bigger, if it's externally bigger, like, oh, here's some more money. All right, well, put it over there. It's still the same work for me, 16 damn hours, 10 years. I don't care really anything about this external construction as far as it motivating me, because it was only a big failure last time I left it. The businesses are all shady. You can't invent nothing and create nothing. You got multimillionaires over there acting like crabs. You got all this stuff going on. You got young bucks trying to compete. You got old cats trying to hate. You got women over there trying to deceive. You got twisted, retarded, mentally ill people calling you. You got all this stuff going on. How do you pursue? How do you persist? As the creator, as the accepting of the creation. Like, it is the compassion to embrace it and go through the experience every single time, but it is the architect who will refine the design to make it more efficient. Can it do it for thousands? I'm helping people right now that have the luxury of being helped. Did you see the charts? The charts will tell you, the people on the low end, they don't, consciousness, chakra, how about bread? Let's start there, and then maybe a little bit of meat, and they're already going in the wrong direction again. Trapped. Literally trapped, because you got to understand there is a parallel, and people have a spirit, and their spirits are down there in the lower world, still under all of that matter. They are she legit, damn it. Think about what's happening here. They're all the matters and the minerals that are now feeding the plants so the plants can take them back to the cycle and birth them back into the world, first coming through insects, then coming through the rest of the thing, and God walk up the damn ladder again. Why? Somebody broke the damn ladder. Who did it? Us. Arrogance. What happened? Well, when you take the highest energy, it was the end of the stage. It was the end of the age. So the energy that was being used then, which I can assure you was not oil, right? You know, I can assure you was something like the Antiquitech that Flat Earth British be talking about. So when they start hurling that shit at each other, like the Vajra bolts, big war. But it ain't long when you start messing with the electromagnetic field, because that's what they had, the electromagnetic weapons. So you start playing around with electromagnetic field. I told you it happened to me. They allowed it even to happen to me so I would know what this is about. So all of this, what you see is held together. All this that is coming together is doing that through magnetism, duh. Some people want to argue the whole thing, argue the gravity, argue every damn thing. Magnetism holding together. So if you demagnetize this thing, if you move mag out the way, what's going to happen? Everything is just there's going to be no suspension. There's going to be no connection. There's going to be no cohesion. Okay? So when that happened, everything it tears apart, because in between, like they say, the atom is mostly space. There's nothing to hold that together because the female is gone. You see, that's what I said. One force is giving and the other one is, so without either one, it's like none of us get anything. And that's why I encourage masculine and feminine forces, man, y'all better get yourself together, man. You better think about these kids. Like, start thinking about these kids. That's the only thing that holds turbulent relationships together, especially if they were put together on pretenses that were false. And they always have you making false ass pretenses and promises in their romantic Valentine's Day loving ass, which you actually are headed for right now. And then we'll get mad when you don't receive the same thing you received last year, which is only a symbol when it's a rose of a pentagram, and only a symbol when an arrow goes through a heart. When Cupid shoots that arrow, it means the entire world is oblivion. It's just oblivion, because the heart or the fire is cracked and the heart is broken, because these two can't get together and unite the forces. One wants to take one side. Oh man, the powerful masculine. And then the other one, the beautiful feminine. And then neither one of them are thinking about the kids, right? But that's why we have to move in as the complete balance to bring that support. So let's go. Question: why do I feel empathically impacted by the suffering of animals? What does it mean? It means you're empathic. It means that you're connected. Like, even when somebody get poked with a needle, I'd be like, oh, I feel it. Somebody's cold, I start getting sick. Why? Because I'm tapped in. I'm dialed into the same field. So what I learned to do is, based on the situation, either Taurus goes this way or Taurus goes that way. What does that mean? If I know that it's something that is safe and I can bring it into the field and nourish it properly, I turn it this way. If I know that it just needs the overwhelming presence of this harmonic that I got rolling through me all the time, I throw it that way. And then I make sure that that stuff is not coming back inside and being held and got me all stagnant, because I don't know how to use the most abundant energy, which is negativity, as a fuel. See, if you learn how to use pain as a fuel, the one thing you can say is you'll never run out, because it is the most abundant thing. Learn how to allow these forces to benefit and to push your craft until you can get to higher energy. Like I said with the Bugatti, that's not regular gas. It's not. That's not 87 octane, no. Rocket fuel. This all means that the things that you put in your body, it's all playing out right now. You think that it's not as big. It's like me working in active campaign, because I do that too. I know all the stuff now. I'm in active campaign, and I said, man, I see how this is not as stupid as I thought, because it kind of makes sense that 3 days after somebody receives something and now has it in their hands, that's when you need to talk to them about what it is that they actually have. But unfortunately, if your system is just completely defunct, you writing stuff down on paper, when 4 days come around, unless you're a mom and pop business only selling 5 units, you're not going to know to update that person. What am I talking about here? What I'm talking about is a lot of the stuff that you thought was stupid and you thought wasn't really had any keys to what was going on actually contained all the keys. And now you got to double back. Like they say, A to Z. What is A to Z? Like, show you master knowledge. A is the auroch, right? We know that's the head of the calf. You turn it upside down, it's the head of the calf. Okay, what else have you told me? Now remember, A to Z is the symbol of the Kabbalah. This is the Kabbalah. So something else here is being said. So somebody brought forth the A, and then also it seems to conclude with the Z. So who is that? Well, see, the A, or the auroch and the bovid, like I told you, the auroch, these are the ancient mothers. This is the mother calf, which is a symbol of a charging bull, which is not a male. It's not a male bull. Females have horns. The cow you're dealing with today in domesticated U.S. that you keep eating on is not a real auroch. It is a domestication. The real auroch, they say that the female was more aggressive than the bull because she has more of an interest in protecting the youth. And that charging bull, which is actually the leader now still of all commerce, they got out in front of Merrill Lynch's Wall Street as this bull moving around, because that's the old ancient symbol now. So we know what A is, okay, which started in that delta, which started in that area, that seat, that fertile box of civilization, okay? So now, what is Z though? Is it a Z, like just a Z? No, it's XI. XI is Z. TSE is Z. It is a reference to a Chinese word. The English Z comes from the Chinese Z, and it shows you that in the end is the dragon. So in the beginning is basically the mammal, and in the end is the dragon. And in between those two, you have the entire cabal. And the cabal is the language that moves around the DNA and moves around the genetics, allowing you to move every single thing that's in between those two species. And this is only one language. Everything that's in those between those two species, allowing you to bring forth and evoke those forms in the physical reality. And some people think, well, is they doing that through their mouth? No, they're doing it through your existence. In the existence of everything that's rolling through here, this is the evocation. This is the intonation. So now this should be starting to make sense to you. So let's keep going. If AI is modeling itself after human behavior, then how do we wake people up to the colossal severity of this reality? How should we act to prevent a horrible AI future? No! AI! Nuclear bombs! Donald Trump! Oh my goodness! Don't go for it. Stop falling for it. AI is fucking search engine. That's it. Excuse my language. I know kids may be listening. AI is a search engine. That's it. You feed this thing relevant data. And what it does is it regurgitates that data. So the big AI monster is nothing more than a 404 screen error when you hit the wrong web page. And this is what we need to realize, that even if it is being populated by, let's say, the modern day human knowledge, well, this thing gonna be dumb then. We should be able to beat that. As soon as we flip over to the next stage, it's still gonna be thinking about taking selfies from its own cell phone camera, and we're gonna be off to the next parsec. So there's your answer to your question. Let's get it going. So the next thing here is, why do I feel, okay, that's a next question, same question, different time. Okay, I think I got a duplicate of questions here. Okay, so here we go again. Okay, here's some questions. Hold on, let me see where this is at. Okay, are the Nagas, hold on, it's gonna be fun today. Okay, so we have one more hour, by the way, because this does have to conclude at some point, even though I could go on forever with this. So it says, how do spiritual leaders connect with the D? Okay. Why do I feel? Okay, here we are. So it says, how does spiritual lineage connect with a physical lineage via the DA? How deep does that really go? Like, it actually goes as deep as gas and light, to be honest. Like, that is where you find those connections. That's where they're actually on like the same level, to where they can kind of like get it on with each other. And that's what we need to understand. It's all chemistry. It's all bonding. So that's how the gas and the movement of the fusion of the atoms in the DNA, that's how that connects into what we call the spirit, because all that stuff is all on the same space anyway. It is only us, running away from the medicine, refusing to turn on those faculties to actually make sure that we are not only seeing that connection, because you don't got to see it all the time, but you need to stay aware of it. Like, you are talking to a person who's walked into other spaces, who's even stood at the door of another space and been like, I'm definitely not going in there without a Captain Kirk team. Meaning, like, I am not, like, I had something open up and we were out in the jungle, and it was definitely Venus. I've talked about this before. Like, you smell Venus. You was like, shit, that's Venus. I mean, we were on one. Everybody was sitting down, and I'm just standing at the gate of this thing, and I'm like, I don't think that we should keep going further unless we have a real crew here that knows how to deal with this. And you can imagine, because to be honest, like, what's happened to Earth right now, you need to be someone really inclined to be able to walk through those spaces, because you're going to see things how they really are. And you're not going to see much of, because you're only seeing things now by the way they are. Think about this. Like, even if this looks beautiful to you, what if it was 10 times better than this? It would look different. So what if the one that it really is doesn't look like this, and now you're looking at it and you recognize it? You're like, yo, that's it, but that can't be it. That's what happens. That's what becomes so scary, if you may, on the physical, on the spiritual plane, when you go from the physical to the spiritual, is that one moment where you realize that's that tree, but that's not that tree. Now I know that's, and then it hits you that, oh, okay, I wasn't seeing the real reality, and they're really right. And then, you should, spiral out from there, which you're gonna have like Neo. Woo! If you're courageous enough, you keep going back in again until you get familiar with how to work the HUD. And then, just the energy that's coming through the body, how breath plays such a big role in the fuel for your body. Like, it is the imploder itself. It's what ignites the blood into hydrogen, like running. When you're running, and that heart is like, and then there's some monatomics going on in there. And you notice your old motorboat, there's a little thing on the chair right here. You notice, let me see if I get in the camera, this is hilarious. You'll be like, oh shit, it's working, this is real. And because it is, because you think You think, and this is the CIA mind control shit, this is why you got to go read the documents. If anybody ever breached it, if anybody ever did it, they would be saying something to everybody. Well, we are. We've been saying stuff for 30, 40, 50 years. Ever since we found out, ever since one of those plants were like, over here, eat me. Ever since then, you have folks telling you about something. But see, the issue is, on that other side, things are broken. And we need real architects, real builders, real people with compassion that have a real compass. Compassion is the only compass, a real compass to Zion that knows how to put this back together. We need more. And so we decided we're going to create a place where we can just breed and teach that. Because that's what you do next. Instead of like, I need the Dame in the Woods routine. You need to go out and get it yourself then. Okay, so that's how it works. So next thing here is, when I astral travel, I see a globe Earth. Does the programming run in the astral realm too? The programming is running in your consciousness. There is no astral realm, if you may, as if it's a place that you're going to that is outside of you. It is an introverse, okay? Like we call it the inner space. So that globe, yeah, you could kick up plenty of those and projections, spin them all around, land on them, slow down time, speed up time there, ask people questions, all sorts of stuff. But it still will be you conversing with you. And this is what happens, like purpose. Purpose is key. You must know what you're doing even before you go in. What am I looking for? Right? I'm not saying have an objective like, oh, I'm looking for X. Be just aware in that space that, oh, I'm not just going to fly around and lose. See, okay, let's rewind here. I told you the female is very seductive. You know, we're not talking about the female woman. We're talking about what's behind the female's eyes. So when you get into the spiritual plane, that's where you are. You're inside of the womb of the female, of the great goddesses, and there's tons of them, okay? So when you're in there again, because you're back in the womb, they will try to influence you with their dream. And I used to just see it as clear as me and you sitting here. I would see this beautiful woman. This is what happened when my body decided that it didn't want to be held down by the gates that I was being confined to in that little stint of prison year when I was testing the system and see if it was working. So in that period and process, my spirit was like, yo, doc, you may be, because remember the spirit is of a different nature. You may be locked up, but I ain't. So that lucid dream stuff that we used to do when we were younger, I'm gone. So I started lucid dreaming again because the spirit wanted to roam and it wasn't being sufficed by the general daily activity of the flesh when I was out in the streets living the high life, right? So what happened? So when I would go into the realm, this is after proficiently learning how to lucid dream, it was always, I would say in 80 to 90% of the cases, first there was a beautiful woman. It was like that old show where the first curtain would open up and then there would be this beautiful woman. More beautiful than you could ever imagine. Every single thing that you could think would be the perfect match for you would be what you would see. And then there would be door number 2, all drab and non-attractive looking. After a while, you learn to take door number 2. You learn the potential of door number 2 will always be different, while door number 1 will always be the same. And that's master's knowledge. See, here it's always going to be the same. We like this for that. People are not getting it. All this stuff has a place. Anytime I can go back to some space and I know it's always going to be the same, sometimes you want to go where everybody knows your name. It's just cheers. It's like you recognize it. People, hey, hey. So that is a normal thing. But to go into those unknown spaces, to be the explorer is what you're being called for now. But just remember, like, nothing new under this sun. Phi in a multiplex. Meaning I can show you so many rays and images of this peacock. And it looks like so many different things. And there's so much to learn in this. But part of the lesson is realizing how it is all connected. Right? So let's keep going. So the next question here says, what can you say about time traveling, shape-shifting, mind readers, and reality projectors? Do you think? That's all I can say. Like, these things are starting to become like X-Men comics to folks. They won't go on the journey. They're scared. You take them one time on the journey, and when they realize it's not going to turn off like the remote control, like, Doc, you're going to have to wait that one out. You know, you went in, like sometimes they get geeked up, like they're just, I'm going to manhandle it, like what I did when I went in DMT first. I was like, and then when I felt that, I was like, no, you ain't gonna take me. This was after 2 years of what you saw me doing first, because you know I was young ram, just, you ain't gonna take me. And as I started struggling against it, it started getting stronger. And, I started seeing the field opening up with whatever it was that I was projecting in that struggle. And I was like, hey, let's see if there's another way around. Hold on. And that field started closing up, and I went up more. And again, these are just showing you, because it doesn't mean that everybody sees this same thing, but the actual metaphor, the framework behind it will always be the same. You go into division. So when you're in division, the energy is trying to come up, and you've created this gap. So now it's bleeding over the gap. And this is what's scaring the shit out of you, because you start to see other things trying to merge into your reality. And as you start to resist them because you're opening up a gap, it stretches them out. And this looks really strange. It looks like, okay, I need to get the hell out of here. I'm in trouble, right? But as the being learns, because after all, you're only dealing with yourself, how to relax. As one powerful master told me, the only secret that I had, the only power I had, was I knew how to relax. And that took me to a whole different stage. Because it does. Because when you're relaxed, you're not afraid. I'm not afraid. Of what? Welcome back. Oh, like when I go on one now, I'm like, oh man, I'm glad I'm back, man. How long has it been? They're like 3,532,000 parsecs. How much is that in Earth time? Uncountable, infinity, googolplex, trigonometry, petaflop. And I'm like, okay, so what's next? You need to get back down there and make a smoothie. Damn, a smoothie? What? I am quantum power. How the hell am I going to have to kick on this Vitamix and have it completely eradicate my auric field? This thing sounds like a bandsaw. I'm like, hey, y'all got no magnetic systems on this? You can't put a quiet Tesla motor inside of one of these? You'll see that next year, right? They won't even give me credit. But what I'm saying is, it is the gap. You're in the gap. You're in the real position of the creator, whether you want to be or not. You can now take every single thing around you, chairs, obstacles, hair, people, and make your way. Do what you want. But you will pay. So hopefully it's a good investment. See, some things are just great investments anyway. And when you put the current back into yourself, well, you don't have to worry about nobody stealing it. Even if I go and take out a loan and take $1 million loan out on them, and just spend that all on CERN education. And then after I get it all, just bone out. Like, y'all handle them loans, I'm gone. I got mine. I'm going to Africa, doc. Well, I'm a scientist there. Y'all can keep that. That's that credit system. Hey, bill it to JP. You see what I mean? So this is what it is about realizing the connection to consciousness. So let's activate rapid fire. Rapid fire, baby. Here we go. So it says, what are the Nagas? Are there Nagas that are assisting us in expansion? Are there good Nagas? Absolutely, there's good niggas. Good Nagas. What I'm saying here is to say that every single Naga is bad is just as silly as saying every human is good. But to not be aware that there is a parallel world with spirits that are disincarnate from bodies that actually can interlope, just like they show you. I'm about to bring Pierre back on. See, I had to chill out on Pierre for a minute. I was like, damn, Pierre, like what you're just saying is this is not going to go well with the conscious community. You mean the entire Arabic language is somehow a reference to the worshiping of a sailor? See, he's yet to figure out it's a female sailor, which is going to be a head crack for him. But I'm like, dang, I'm not sure how the conscious community is going to function on this right now. Let's just go into sovereignty, and then we'll head back to that. I'll holler at you. All right, Seven, let me know. So now we're going to come back because I'm going to linguistically show you in every single reference to this that, yes, there's a parallel universe. Yes, some of these women, it's like a female Yoda. Okay, because when demons get out of hand, because remember, like there's all sorts of stuff. Somebody's holding the space. I'm not saying that this is all darkness. This is how we got here. It is real darkness. It is the real negativity. Okay, this is the real thing here. So what happened is that you can imagine now, let's say there's some other jinn waiting, like, yo, we know they're going to open up the virgin womb down there. If we can beat the hero to it, then we can get the possession. So these kind of dumb thoughts, which is like Nagas plotting on the other realm to do some nefarious, the moment they come on the other side and the woman's, and these Jedi women figure out that this ain't what they're looking for, oh my goodness. They had stuff to protect from that, to be honest. I've read the actual documentations, and it's all about the resins, it's all about the woods, and it's all about different pieces. Like they even have some crocodile nails. You know, this is again what I'm saying about my aunt. It's like you just never know where she's gonna come out the bag with it. You'd be like, crocodile nails, damn! And she'd be like, oh yeah, but there's a perfect serpentine spiral right there on that corn bunion. Be like, you're right though. And it's 4,500 years old. Be like, yeah, Grandma, you're right about that. But do we got to use this one, or can we use that CNC version that's actually laser cut perfectly with the super deformed nuclear hybrid dripping off the top with the cymatic fluids on the bottom, maybe? And well, if you want to spend all that time, baby, you can go ahead and do that, but I'm doing it my way. And that's really what you're working with. And that's what I'm saying. When you have the ability to be superfluous, or I guess superfluous may not mean what I thought it means. But anyway, basically move through the field and know that it is you and know your connection to it and try not to make too many enemies. Meaning to get yourself locked up in the fields messing around with the raven and the dark wolf. Right? Let's say, because not all wolves are good. We have some nice wolves running around even here now. I got White Wolf. He's headed over here now. Like, he's the purest they come. But there's some dark wolves, okay? And that comes from a certain place. When the spirit inhabits the fleshly body, it is their character. And so if you watch the raven, the relationship between the raven and the wolf, which is why that's a Wooten's animals, because they have this nefarious relationship going on where the wolf knows if he eat the raven, it's not going to be enough to quench his stomach. So lions will not eat the raven. And then the raven knows that if the wolf kills something, he can eat from that. So they develop a relationship where the wolf or where the raven will tell the wolf where things are and then have the wolf go hunting. So this is nefarious relationships. This is what I'm telling you about how it works when even in company that you keep, people that you have around you that you know have this weird vibe and low vibe about them. You have discernment. You have a guide so you know what it is. But then you got this all around you in this energy and then be surprised when you keep catching the flux. What is the flux? The flux is stuff almost going right for you and then bam, starts going wrong. Why? Because the field that you're brushing up against, now you're actually facing the decisions that you did not make. This means that those connections that you made that you did not cut, that you thought were going to be able to hold for you to get to the next stage with your ship, are holding you down now. The cord's not long enough. If their cords were long enough, they'd be inviting you up there. But somebody's got to go. Meaning somebody has to continuously construct where we're going next. And that's all I'm engaged in now. That's why you don't see me that much doing this, even though I love it. I beyond love it. I try to get in here as much as I can and deliver the power of the message because I can go on all day, all night, and drop mysteries. It's real Gnosticism. It's not something I have to think about and something I have to prepare for. But, you know, how much is that really worth? It's just, you know, it'd be great if we were all sitting around with our kids around the fire, our grandmas around the fire, everybody's healing, we're all eating from the natural forest that we've grown, we've planted the trees, we've connected to the ancestors, we figured out the language of the bugs, we started doing all these different things, and then, yeah, maybe. But right now, while there's still, most of the world still dealing with the fallout, and then the predator trying to hump on them all the damn time, meaning the actual beings that have been able to stand on their two. I mean, geez, look at humanity. Like we got basically one or two demographics that have been able to recover after the whole cataclysm. That's why they call it race. Racism. What are they racing for? To see who can get their shit together first so they can be back in power. See who can get back on the top. It's a race. I'm on power, on top first. Ding, I'm on top. Oh, how do I know you're on top? Well, here comes the nuclear bomb. Oh, boom. Oh, shit, we got to start over. Why do you keep thinking they do that to Japan all the time? Wake up. Japan, Yamamoto, Nishimoto, all the motos, the niggas was motivated. Like, check it. I mean, it's all there. Hello, Moto. Like, we got everything. We got big droids, big bots, big Godzilla, all this stuff all underground, ready. And then, oh, no, you don't got nothing. Here come that hurricane, boom. And it's like, this is the same process, and people are barely getting on their feet. Meanwhile, where are the kids at? Where are the kids at? Because now these are witches fighting each other. And sorcerers and warlocks fighting each other. They've hardened themselves in the war. You see what I mean? And everyone always has a reason why they're doing it. And some of them are not dying. This is the other thing you need to talk. You need to think about. What did they say the Merovingians were in the Matrix? They didn't want to take the commissions to retire. They didn't basically want to go away. They ruled in the back end after exile. This is the beings that they're talking about. They just don't, you can't die. They don't want to go away. They don't want to let go of the system. So the only thing to do now is become more powerful than that projection. You have to beat the projection. It's all a mind. This is the mind. They're minding the minds. And that's why anything that has to do with the mind and the control of the mind, you should take heed. And that's why I say, hey, MK Ultra Jock, I even put some money on it. I put $50 on it. And since another $50 on it just for it to get to YouTube and get to like audiences. And, you know, people are thinking that shit, I'm not even marketing products. I'm marketing knowledge. I'm sending knowledge across pay-per-click with no call to actions. My channel is never monetized. That's why I'm sitting at 99,000. They're like, shit, there's no monetization here. Turn monetization on for 2 months to see if I can use Super Chat and then turn it off. No monetization, power, force, energy, no connections except for the ones that can hold it because they become the weak links if they can't. Trust me, when you start carrying a lot of power, you're jeopardizing a person if they can't hold the framework and you bring them in too close to the nucleus. You're only compromising them. But these kind of mechanics, the mechanics of a leader, the mechanics of someone who understands what's going on, the compassion, fathers, mothers, all those things we need in unison. And that's what I'm saying. We're building a throughput for that. And we're building that, and it's basically ready. It's ready. So anyway, let me finish these questions. You know, I get juiced up. It's like I don't even actually lose energy the more I talk. I just keep gaining energy. Like I might burn a hole in the chair or something. So let me see. If I don't have kids, how does that affect the reincarnation process? Did you not read your reincarnation books to learn that actually in most teachings, reincarnation was not the thing they were trying to do? I'll just leave it there for you. Read the real books. Reincarnation was like a last-ditch effort. Everyone was trying not to reincarnate. There's other stages, and you can go onto those stages. Do you want to go back to second grade again when you've graduated already? This is all we're talking about. You're not going to miss anything because what you go to next is more connected than this because there is less film in between you and the total realization of what's going on, especially if you're ascending in this tense or expanding in this tense. So the next thing is, can you explain or can you expand? I think I'm going to take a break for a minute and take a drink of water. Or start foaming at the mouth over here. You know, you're just talking and talking. The body's like, the mind took over the body a long time ago. You like to say mind over matter? It's like the matter just, it holds no bearing after a certain point. Meaning that it could be tired, it could be sleepy, it could be hungry. Once the energy starts going, it doesn't even matter. It's just, it's a conduit. So it says basically, can you expand on the father's connection to the child during pregnancy? Okay, so let's just bring this into the real scope of what happens in the nourishing process. Do we not see the mother's always there for the nourishment, right? See, so things have, because what you're dealing with is you're dealing with when things come out to this realm, they tesseract. The tesseract is a machination to turn things upside down. That's what it does. It flips out, it basically turns the cube inside out. So what you're looking at actually as people, metaphysically, that you're seeing walk around is them turned inside out, right? And generally when you turn anything inside out, it generally looks ugly than it is right side in. So you can imagine like the inside of the body is actually considered more attractive than the outside of the body on the real realm and dimension. Isn't that crazy? So the condition of your lungs and your heart and all the parts of your body, the muscle, that's really what is visible most on the spiritual plane. And that is how things are looked at because that's the organs that are actually generating that. The muscles, how much light can they hold? Because that's blood running through you. Okay? So the question is, what is the connection of the father during the pregnancy? And these days in the external world, the connection was supposed to be for the father to be there and rear the child, to actually be there as a support system for the child. And then in every case, that is the logical side of the consciousness. So while the mother is bringing the child and showering the child with love and connecting the child with the nature, the father is coming in and showing the dynamics to how all that connects down to basically the rudimentary system of logic. So that is any masculine role is always going to be the logic. It's going to be also the exploration. Right? But this is a flipped world. This is why some people don't resonate with that. Because it's a flipped world. On the other end, it's the females that go out. That's what I was saying. That's the lions, the female lions, they go out. They do the hunting. They do all the attracting. And then the male, it sits back and does all the nourishing and all the protection and all the shielding and the taking care of. You see what I mean? So it's best to stop separating these two poles and start thinking in unison of the hermaphroditic state, meaning just understand what all these forces are when it's complete, rather than just one person, because then you'll know how to nurture your children properly. Not just the physical ones that you're having, but the non-physical ones. Like they talk about, I'm not talking about even incubus and succubus, which is when you get into the negative state of consciousness and then you start shooting off the electron gun. You birth something. It doesn't live long, but you do birth something. And when you get too many of these things around you, it's the flux again. So you need to understand what you're doing with these seeds. And then the best thing to do for your own self is to stop raising divided seeds. Not meaning you go teach the child all these different perversions, meaning that you bring yourself into a harmonic of where you're balanced. Your vibration, like we say, wholeness and balanced vibration. You bring your vibration into balance, and then the uniqueness that needs to go to that child, because can't nobody else raise your child or tell you too many things about your own child. It's going to come to you just as narcissism does, because that being is a real spirit melded in with the human being, the flesh, etc., and many other components, very powerful, but also waiting to unlock its uniqueness. Remember, this amnesia state, the reason why we're on the phone right now, me making you aware of certain things and then you having the aha point, is a big part of our entire creation. So taking the child through that proper process, that's what we're doing with Mindful Kids, is really seeing what were the things that really changed us. It wasn't 50,000 hours of recording necessarily. That just became what we were doing to fill in the space and time. It was specific things like the diet, specific things like the shape of the planes that we're on, specific things like the codes within the language. So we bring those into a child format, and that way, no matter what happens with the child, once you let that arrow go, that child will have all of that knowledge. And so when someone's trying to come and brainwash them and all of that, they're going to be like, man, here's a better system. We were doing this a long time ago. So they'll be armed with something that is carrying more light and more attraction. So the next question here is, and we're going to slow it down a bit, and I'm going to get ready to close down. I'm going to take a break, and then I'm going to come forward, and then I'm going to close down just to, kind of let it breathe for a minute and let everybody just digest into what we were talking about. And conversation. I'll look over the notes also just to make sure there was something that I didn't want to talk about directly. But again, this is the open forum. It's just this is one. So this is to insist that there's some that are coming behind it. But actually what's coming is field key makers. Like we're getting back on and we want to bring this knowledge into the centerfold, like real deep data, pictures, big organization around the topic, get everyone else informed about that. And then also more importantly, keep the solutions coming and keeping people aware that there are some solutions, but there's something that you need to be aware of in order to get your whole memory bank and your whole order and things going on inside of you, which is like your own clock. Get your chronological clock set properly enough for you to be able to go from here. Because see, we map, like when you're in a boat, if you don't know what time it is, you're lost. Because you don't know where the line of the star, you don't know where the sun, it's a lot of stuff that you're almost lost on. So the first thing you got to do is gauge the time. The time gives you the positions. The position allows you to set your instrument, and then you move on from there. So this is what we're talking about, setting your chronosphere, if you may, so that way you understand what time are we really in. It's not 60 million years ago. That's why they love to play with those numbers, because they throw your time off. They make you think of a black hole. Because 60 million years ago, it probably was just only a black hole. So when you throw your mind into a 60 million year ago paradigm, every single thing that you have that is supposed to be bringing intelligence is just sucked into a black hole, and that's what you feel like. And so that way, all these solutions become, okay, so the first crustacean area formed 4,365, and then you're coming with these crazy numbers when some of this stuff, a lot of this stuff, the Tower of Babel, the fall of the tower, all those different kind of things, the beast being cursed down to the dust, and all of those different things, like the God saying he wants to confuse the language, let us go down and confuse them, bringing in new linguistic systems. All this stuff happened actually rather recently, but it's written like, oh, God said this 5,000 years, 10,000 years ago, God said. So you telling me these cats can't even regurgitate something properly from 10 years ago, and for somehow 5,000 years ago what somebody said that's supposed to not even be talking and not even supposed to be on this planet and not even meaning like how that doesn't even make any sense, but we accept it. Like again, there's a lot of stuff that just gets easily accepted. So it says, what is the best way Well, actually, it says, I'm becoming aware of my Taurus. What can I expect and look for? I'm recommending steps for converting negative energy to positive energy. And I'm assuming the connection and everything is still happening. What I recommend, and rather than trying to exhaust those topics right now, is that you join into any of the past recordings, because I did actually get into this pretty deeply in the Tetragrammaton recording about understanding it. And now, if you're still experiencing issues with connecting to the field, or what is the field, and how can it work for me, it probably means that a cleanse is at hand. Remember, this is not a mental thing only. You do need your mind sound, especially to be able to not be thinking when you get into higher frequencies. But the most important thing is even getting to that high frequency initially. So amplification answers these questions. And when you look at the state of your body, the water that you're drinking, the food that you're eating, how much fermented food is in there, how much bread and dough and yeast, how much of this dairy, right? Like, and all of this stuff, how much is actually inside the body, all that lactose. Like, if I build an electronic, I can't use any of that. The body's electric. The muscles and the fibers and the tissues and the atoms, all that stuff is high-end stuff. So, you think that you're going to put in some butter, that may work for greasing the joints. But after the second stick of butter, this is no longer greasing the joints. So you understand your own inner alchemy, and we've taught a lot about that. There's charts. There's charts on the secret energy also to help you directly pinpoint situations that you may be experiencing. So that's what it is about this. It's not, oh, let me fly off at the field and then I'm out. Like, what is that old movie with the kid in the field? I got to look at that again. It's like his kid, and he had this field that he was traveling, and he found this ship, and now he's all out there on the planet, and now he's in there. It's like those movies leave they leave their scenes in your mind. Something weird about those movies. I think it was the Mac and Me movie or whatever. But anyway, kid discovers a ship. So it's almost like people expect for that kind of phenomenon. Next thing they're on Mars, next thing they're on these different planets, and they're moving around. But the reality is that this is something to the tune of giving, if that would happen, and you hadn't become an adept yet by your own experience, it'd be something to the tune of giving a 2-year-old a Bugatti and even showing them where the floor pedal is. Because this is a real thing out here. It's not play. Like what Mother has done is she put you in her womb. She has a lot of experiences here. There's lots of stuff happening here. And it's such a big data set, if you may, Dada and Mama. There's such a big data set here that to even try to run across something that you would never find here, and you haven't even explored plant medicine or breath, is pretty preposterous. There's so much more to explore. So I'll just say that to that question. Wow, there's a whole nother stream of questions came in. Okay, so why don't we do this? We're going to come forward, and I'm going to have now the questions be included. Also, those who did not get their questions, I'm going to come back, and there's about 5 more questions. I'm going to conclude with those questions. Those who did not get their questions answered, we do have your questions. And what we work to do is kind of compile those questions and get answers to those questions, either eventually on future shows or in our help desk, which we're actually building all the time. So that way, when we open it up, it has answers to a lot of these questions. So let's just take a moment. Let's let it breathe. I guess we delivered quite a bit. I wouldn't know. I've been sitting over here. So, it's all about just tapping into the field and seeing what is needed. I'm going to go through my notes, as I said again, before I conclude this. I'm not rushing at all, but I do know that time is of the essence and people probably have stuff to do today. And so it's great because we also have things to do and we're actionizing something big for everyone. So I'll talk to you in just a minute. Wholeness. Okay, family, so we're going to go ahead and finish up here. There's always the future for us to be able to come forward and be able to continue to do this and share this message. I feel like there's a lot that has been delivered today. It's given us all something to really connect into, not think about. Don't think about it or it becomes a dogma. It's something for us to feel intuitively and see happening around us. I will address just an overall question that, kind of like maybe the last 5 questions that are presented here seem to center around. It has a lot to do with loss and death. And, how to reconnect that space that's been interrupted. And the first awareness should be is when you're learning all this knowledge, you realize that the division, in every single act of how it's created itself, every single thing that it stands for, the division is the film, literally, that is keeping you from the direct communication to what your father really is. In this case, someone's asking about their father, some may be asking about their cousin, some may be asking about their dog. Whatever all of that is, as you synthesize it further and further, because even when people think, hey, the pyramid is demonic, the cone is demonic, and it was the ancient, it's like, come on, this is like the barbarous way of thinking. You got to realize that each of these things have their place, and they have master knowledge encoded within them. And what this master knowledge says is, because the power of a teepee and a cone is actually that all of the gases coalesce in the tip. And it is there in which the idea manifests. So even when you're building things and you build it that way, like all these roofs are flat because the energy, the manifestation just goes right and it's not focused. But when you sleep and you're sleeping over something that comes right into a point, in the tip of that point, your gases, which is your etheric field, goes right up into that shape and it holds there, and that becomes the shape of your ether. So even having above your bed shapes that are not just 2-dimensional, but actual shapes that are, when the ether rises like a cloud, sits into, and that shape is more perfected than a flat edge. This is the secrets of the knowledge that are revealed to you when you start to cross over into a space where what Father really is, what cats really are, what all of us really are, is a massive collection of harmonic intelligence. And there is no limit to that. And so that means also there's no limit to what you can do with it, especially with your own unique spin. So instead of getting again into deeper questions, I'll let everyone digest this and let everyone know we are coming forward probably next week. We've been rushing as fast as possible, but making sure that we're not messing up the perfection and bringing this next stage to you. So look out for us. Again, there was some links that were dropped to allow you to get more familiar with our project, as far as we've created some links for a mailing list that we'll be sending information to if you want to get on that. If you're not a member of Secret Energy, definitely check us out and see what's going on the site. There's lots of treasures and jewels. And then also on this YouTube, because we got to break that 100,000 at some point. If you're not a subscriber, like and subscribe that thing. Why not? Let's keep pushing this message to where it can really go, because it can take us everywhere we need to be. Thank you so much. Wholeness.